Moving on to Division I scores, your Purdue Boilermakers, man, they give me a heart attack every time they go out.
It was kind of rough. And you go into the game, Aiden O'Connell, who's went into the game 5th in the nation in passing yards, was out, game time decision with an undisclosed injury. A lot of mystery there, and they just had to roll with the punches, playing against an FAU team that, with a fully healthy roster, you got to imagine they're going and kind of win pretty handily, but they had to run with some backup quarterbacks and still ended up getting the win. The final score there was 28-26, homecoming for Purdue.
Yeah, with Aiden O'Connell out, Austin Burton under center. I mean, he had a good performance. 166 yards, it's not too impressive, but 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, he did what he had to do. Stepping in for Aiden O'Connell, somebody that's capable of busting out, 400, 450 yards a game, it's kind of intimidating, but I think he stepped up in relative.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the same chemistry with star receiver Charlie Jones, but it didn't seem to matter. Jones came away with the game, 9 catches for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Maybe a little underutilized, only 9 catches, but he did have those 2 scores and ended up being pivotal in giving Purdue that win. So Jones is just a freak, man. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, TJ Sheffield also found pay dirt with a touchdown as well from Burton, and it was a nice strike. I thought it was good. But, man, FAU, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that might be a bowl-eligible team at the end of the season. I mean, Dylan Downing, 15 rushing attempts for 135 yards, 1 touchdown. That's a great showing from a very he was a powerful running back. He kept those legs churning and kept generating yards post-contact.
How about IU, though? How'd the Hoosiers do? I know it's a bit of a soft spot for you
brush over this one.
Being an IU fan.
Cincinnati's just leaps and bounds better than the Hoosiers. They lost 45-24. I said last week that they were going to struggle against this part of their schedule. This is the last game before conference play starts, and conference schedule is absolutely ridiculous for IU. So, unfortunately, I'm a diehard Hoosier fan for life, and I'll be there through the bad. So,
but Jake, IU was 3-0 to start the season. I was told from
on.
all the IU fans that IU was going to go and win the national championship.
Yeah, no,
what happened there?
We'll move on. Moving on! Yes, Notre Dame went to UNC, to Chapel Hill, finished 45-32. Good win for the Marcus Freeman-led Irish.
Yeah, now starting to get on a bit of a roll here after a slow start as a coach.
Yeah, Drew Pine stepping in for the injured Tyler Buckner. We saw him get hurt last week. Did pretty well, 3 touchdowns, 289 yards. Solid performance, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun game to watch as well. For Notre Dame fans, you got to feel pretty hopeful. It was a very rough start to the season, and there was all that hope after the Ohio State game where it really looked like things were looking up for the team, but then it just it's all kind of fallen apart since then. But it's good to see them get a couple wins, put a couple wins on paper.
Yeah, Drake May for the Tar Heels, 309 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, good showing for him. But I think the run game was the major contributing factor for the Irish to get the dub there. They had 3 running backs with at least 50 yards or more. Of course, Audric Estemis, 134 yards apart and 2 touchdowns. It's a good showing, and I think that's how they're going to continue to win games is on the ground. Tyler Buckner's out.
And they gave him the 17 carries, which led the team, and obviously it's a big workload. But they were able to get, Tyree with 80 yards, Diggs had 50. It was a nice showing from that 3-headed monster, the rushing attack. But still knowing that Estemi's that #1 guy with those 17 carries, and he did pretty well with them.
Yeah. Moving on, Texas played Texas Tech. The Longhorns traveled to Lubbock to take on their in-state rival. Tech looking for revenge from their 70-35 loss last season, just an absolute blowout. Early in the first, Hudson Card finds Keelan Robinson, who manages to keep on his feet for a 30-yard touchdown, makes the game 7-0. And later on in the first, an 18-play drive spanning 75 yards in almost 8 minutes sets up quarterback Donovan Smith for the Raiders with a 4-yard 4th-and-goal touchdown. We're all tied up at 7. The next drive results in a field goal. So 10-7 Texas, and moving on earlier in the second, Smith off the play action finds his running back Taj Brooks for a 17-yard strike as he walks into the end zone untouched. Raiders up by 4.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive play from Texas Tech.
Yeah, untouched. Just over 6 minutes left in the half. QB Hudson Card, playing for the injured Quinn Ewers, escapes a collapsing pocket and fires one deep to Xavier Worthy for a 39-yard score. 17-14 Longhorns lead, and what a throw that was. Just 29 seconds to go in the half. Bijan Robinson, he'll find pay dirt to make it a 24-14 game in Lubbock. That score, of course, set up by a Hudson Card, Rashawn Johnson connection for 23 yards. No more scoring would happen until a field goal from Tech that makes it a 24-17 game with about 4.5 minutes left in the third. Bijan Robinson finds a gap and takes it 40 yards to the house. Horns up 31-17, and Texas Tech would find the end zone another time to bring them within a touchdown. With just under 8 to go in the game, Smith finds Baylor Cupp, no relation to Cooper, for a 19-yard score, and Raider fans go crazy. 31, we're all notched up. Tech forces a punt, which sets them up for a 45-yard field goal attempt to take the lead, and Trey Wolf nails it. What a leg on that young man, as we'll come back to that later. Of course, Texas isn't done yet with 2 seconds remaining in regulation. The 47-yard attempt from Burt Auburn falls through, and that sends the game into overtime.
These games are always so close.
Now, on the first play of overtime, however, we're going to see a little mishap here as Bijan Robinson fumbles the handoff, and Tech recovers it. They'll march down the field in 5 plays, and it will be capped off by a 20-yard Trey Wolf field goal to win the game. In the red, there you see it right there, as the Red Raiders win. The student section storms the field as they avenge their bad 70-35 loss from last season with a 34-31 win in overtime. What a game for the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Bad blood between these two teams, whether it be football, basketball, lacrosse. I mean, it's always so much fun watching these two games. And you mentioned last year didn't quite go the way Texas Tech hoped to get their revenge here.
Not even close.
It's just it's a fun rivalry to watch.
Absolutely, and as you can see, it obviously means something to these fans if they're storming the field like that. I think they tried to take down a goalpost and it just wouldn't come down. So. Yeah, so moving on around the conference, or around the Division I world, number 25, Miami. Man, they took a bad loss to Middle Tennessee State, Nathaniel.
Yeah, it was tough. There were a lot of teams that were ranked pretty high in the nation that didn't quite come away with the win like what people hoped. It was a big underdog weekend in college football, and really this is just another example of that.
Yeah, Chase Cunningham from Middle Tennessee State had a great showing, 16 for 25, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 1 pick. One kind of got away from him. It was an honest mistake, I'm assuming. Now, the interesting storyline from this game is Miami benched their starter, Tyler Van Dyke, right before or right after halftime. I can't quite remember. So Jake Garcia stepped in for Van Dyke and did not fare much better. Ultimately, though, defensive miscues led to the lapses, which led to this loss from Miami. So, expect to see Miami not ranked next week, I'd say.
Yeah, it was kind of a tough, and of course they're already on the outskirts of the ranking. They're number 25 ranked, so it's not like they are, one of the higher ranked teams here, but it was a pretty ugly game. Middle Tennessee just came out looking a lot better.